love Jesus and I love talking about Jesus. And today I'm back with another video. I'm not gonna lie to you guys, I was gonna film today and then I wasn't, then I wasn't, then I wasn't, then I wasn't. But here I am, filming. It's been a hard morning, guys, to be completely honest. Like, you know, when I made this channel, before I start with the message, it has nothing to do with this, to be honest with you guys. But before I start with this, like, when I started this channel and knew I was gonna start talking more about Jesus and everything, like, I knew the spiritual warfare would come. Like, that's how the devil works. And like, I knew it would, but like at the same time I was like, maybe it won't, but it did. And it's kind of like we developed this unhealthy thing of like, dang, like I messed up now, like I'm so undeserving of Jesus. And I think like it's good to realize like, hey, yeah, we don't deserve Jesus and we don't deserve his love, but he has made us worthy, you know what I'm saying? So when we believe like this we make this unhealthy relationship with that, like, I don't know. And like I'm starting to develop that, and I think we need to pray for that for all of us, that we don't do that, to be completely honest with you guys. Like, I look so bad in this hairstyle. Like, is it just me? I'm about to just let the hair out. Hold on. The hair's gonna look crazy this video. I'm sorry. I have nothing to do, okay? Leave me alone. Yeah, it's a struggle, to be completely honest with you guys. It is spiritual warfare. I think we need to stop making an unhealthy relationship with that. I think we need to look at it in a good way, you know? Like, not like beat ourselves up for it. Like, you know, like we'll mess up one time and then, I'm so undeserving of your life. It's like, I don't know. Anywho, aside from all of that, I have been struggling with my faith, bro. Oh my gosh. And so I wanted to make this video about how faith feels like free falling. Like, literally, that's what it feels like. You're flying in the air, being like, Jesus, I trust in you. And so, yes, that was a little too honest, but I wanted to be honest with you guys, bro. Like, we need to be honest. I'm not gonna sit here and be like, hey guys, like, I'm fine. It's just like I even look a mess. Like, look at my hair. Haha. So we're gonna ignore that. We're just gonna talk about Jesus and we're gonna ignore that, okay? It's hard to have faith in something that you can't see and someone you can't see. I think especially this year, I find myself like, every time I talk to Jesus, I'm like, Jesus, I just wish I could see you. Like, I could just be, like, you could just, and he's there and he comforts me in the moment and after and the day after that, and he just continues to comfort me and be there. But it's like, it's so hard, you know, like, to just have faith. Or sometimes you have faith and like you don't know what's on the other side, like you don't know what's going on. You're kind of just like, hello, like you're going insane. So that's what I want to talk about. So before we get started, I'm going to pray. Hi, Jesus, thank you for this day. Thank you for your love. Thank you for your mercy, Jesus. Thank you for the opportunity to be here, to be able to talk about you, Jesus. I pray that this word first ministers to me, ministers to these people across the screen. And I pray that we may apply this word to our lives and have faith in you and believe in you, because you are worth more than anything, Jesus. We love you so much. We worship you. Speak through me, Jesus. Keep using me as your instrument, because that's what I'm here to do, to just be used by you. So thank you, Jesus, for everything you've done, everything you'll continue to do. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen. Yeah, like I told you guys, lately I have some things and it just accumulates, and all I can do is have faith. I'm an older sibling. I have been an older sibling like basically all my life. So usually when you're an older sibling, you're used to have it like kind of taking control, like you know what to do. Like, oh, there's a problem, it's okay, I'll fix it. Like, yeah. But when it's with Jesus, it's like, no, I got it. Like, give it to me. I got it. And sometimes that's hard because you just fully have to have faith and you just feel like you're floating in the air and you're like, yes, I'm rooted, but like, I don't know what's going to come ahead. Like, you're just kind of like, Jesus, I trust you. Or sometimes it feels like, oh my gosh, it's falling apart. But no, it's not. But it's like, a lot of times we're very confident in speaking when everything's okay and speaking of faith when everything's fine, like me 2 weeks ago. But when the problems come and when things come, that's when it's like, oh no, where's the faith? Like, you know what I'm saying? Or it's there, but it's just harder. It's just harder to like stay in that, to stay strong and stay rooted and stay like dung dung. Like, I'm gonna stay rooted, but it's hard to not like dismay, this go crazy with that. You know what I'm saying? Anyways, what I mean by faith that feels like free falling is basically that. Free falling is like Peter when he sank in the ocean. Well, y'all know what I mean. First I want to start by saying, what is faith? Faith is a strong belief or a trust in something that you can't see, especially in something that's like without proof, even though we have our proof. But biblical faith is found all over Hebrews 11, and I came across Hebrews 11, and I honestly don't know how I got there. I'm not even there yet, but it is, oh my gosh, such an amazing chapter. I love Hebrews 11 because, you know, all throughout the Bible, there's so many examples of faith and how it feels like free falling and like you don't know what's on the other side or whatever. You don't know what's going to happen. All you do is depend on God. And so there's so many examples of that in the Bible. And all of these examples I've read so far, because I'm in the Old Testament, all of them were in here. And it was so awesome. This whole chapter is so awesome. It's like the title of it is literally faith in action. Like, beautiful. So we're going to be basing this whole thing off of this chapter. I literally loved it so much. So that's what we're going to be doing. And yeah, so first of all, through that chapter, we can see the definition of faith in multiple verses. First is Hebrews 11:1, first verse. Now faith is confidence in what we hope for and assurance about what we do not see. And then verse 3, by faith we understand that the universe was formed at God's command, so that what is seen was not made out of what was visible. And then in verse 6 we see, and without faith it is impossible to please God, because anyone who comes to him must believe that he exists and that he rewards those who earnestly seek him. So that is what faith is. We believe in something we can't see, and true faith is in Jesus. True faith is in God. And like it says here, and without faith, it is impossible to please God. Because if we come to him, I mean, that means that we know there's something. We have some type of faith that someone is there. Like when I first came to Jesus and sat and talked to him, it's like I had faith that someone was there listening and that was Jesus. That is faith. Like, it's impossible for us to even come to Jesus if there's not a little bit of faith. And a little bit of faith is very powerful, I'm telling y'all. So that's what we're going to get into today. Free falling, we know what free falling is. It is literally when you're just falling, like when you have a dream and you're falling and you wake up and you're like, boom. First of all, I want to talk about how significant faith is. I love faith. It's literally the root of living for Jesus and everything is faith. I think a lot of people don't like faith because it really tests you. And a lot of times we love the evidence and we love the proof and we love that I need to know what's going to happen so then I can do it. And a lot of time, the simple action of living a life of trusting something that we've never seen before, that we don't know what's going to come ahead or whatever, that scares people and it stops them from receiving Jesus. And I think the reason a lot of times this happens is because faith forces us to be dependent on Jesus. A lot of times we're like, oh, follow your heart, or like, I'm gonna do my own thing, I'm gonna trust in myself, I'm gonna trust in my friends, and we depend on these things, but we are too scared to depend on the one that we are supposed to depend on, who is Jesus. And so faith forces us to be dependent, and the only one who is holding us is God. And it's one of the most beautiful things in my opinion. I think the same way that it can be like, you can look at it and be like, I love that. Like, I don't even have to worry about anything myself. But it is also hard. When you're so independent, that's hard. That is very hard. And a lot of times, faith confronts a lot of things that you don't want to let go of. It confronts your comfort. It confronts your control, your fear of dependency and of uncertainty, like that you don't know what's going to come and da-da-da-da. We're afraid of that. Therefore, when faith is testing that, and it confronts that, we don't want to face it, and we're scared of it, and we're scared to have faith. But faith is so awesome, you guys. Like, I think faith even stopped me a little bit sometimes. Like, dang, like faith in something I can't see, like forever, like. But then you get that proof. Anyways, when you have an encounter with Jesus, like, it's not uncertain anymore. It's like, I'm certain he's there. You know, that is faith. Like, man, I can't even see you. I can't even shake your hand, but I know you're here. Like I feel like I feel you. Like, I know you're here. Your presence, like, it's here. Like, you know what I'm saying? So faith is so beautiful. All of this deepens your relationship with God because you start depending completely on God. You stop depending on yourself, thinking you can do it by yourself, thinking that your abilities are going to get you somewhere, because they're not. You start depending fully on God. And when you're in a season that you feel like you're free falling, that you feel like you need to, you feel like you're uncertain, you're in the uncertainty, you don't know what's going on, and you just need to have faith. That is when you pray more honestly. When you're more honest with God, that is when you depend more on God. That is when you seek God the most. Because if we're being completely honest, a lot of times when everything's okay is when we don't really want to turn to God. Like, hey, I'm fine. But we need to be there in all seasons. Like, we need to, in all seasons, be rooted in Jesus. In all seasons, have faith that he is there. And so that's why faith is so significant, because when you need faith and when you're in that free falling season, that's when you most depend on God. And that's why faith is beautiful. And now it's time to get into Hebrews 11. Now that you guys understand what faith is, why it is so important, why we need it, and everything, this video might be a bit shorter because the storage is not giving. But yeah, this specific chapter gave so many examples of different people that had faith. It went from the smallest faith to the biggest of faith, and all of them were significant. And so that's why I love so much. I love Hebrews 11, this chapter. So we're going to start by verse 4 is when they start talking about different people. All right. By faith, Abel brought God a better offering than Cain did. By faith, he was commended as righteous by God when God spoke well of his offerings. And by faith, Abel still speaks even though he is dead. Commended also means, by the way, like, that is what he is admired by. He's admired by that faith. And basically, it's Abel and Cain. Cain was the one that killed Abel, remember? And then Adam and Eve, that's their sons. Abel had faith because Abel had brought the firstborn of his flock to God when they were going to offer. He brought the firstborn of his flock, or he brought the fat, which fat is like the best part. And this is what Abel would work for. And he brought that to the Lord. And he had faith to do that. To be like, everything I've worked for, maybe today or for a few weeks with this, because that was his job, I'm going to bring it to sacrifice it to God. He needed to have faith for that. I mean, I'm going to bring you my best, Jesus, and I have faith. I'm just going to bring it to you. Like, I don't know where it's going to get me, but I'm going to give it to you. I'm going to give it to you. It's going to be for you. I don't know what's going to come after. I'm uncertain of that. I don't know, but I'm going to give it to you. And he did it with a heart posture and a heart of reverence and of sincerity and of faith, which is what God sees. Okay. And then Cain, he kind of brought it like, all right, here you go, God. You know what I'm saying? And so even if Abel were to bring the most awesome or the most trash or the most whatever he would have brought to offer, God looks at that heart. Even if Cain brought something more amazing than Abel. Even if that happened, okay? All right, guys. Here I am. Once again. And maybe this is a bad idea of me putting the footage on my iPad because the quality is gonna be booty. But I'm just gonna do it. Okay? Yeah, I know it looks bad. Sorry, guys. We have to do with the accommodations. Anyways, offer the best. And even if Abel were to offer, I don't know. It's like, at the end of the day, God knows the heart. You know what I'm saying? It's the heart. And like, he knew Abel was coming in faith, in reverence to God, to the Lord. While Cain was not. I mean, look at after he literally killed Abel. You know what I'm saying? And even with that, God is so intentional. I think that Cain killed Abel out of free will, nothing to do with the Lord, because things happen out of our free will. But yet, even after that happened, unfortunately, the Lord still fulfilled his purpose. And as you guys saw in the chapter, like, look how beautiful it said. Literally what it said. Even though he died, and by faith Abel still speaks even though he is dead. So like, his faith still speaks even though he died, you know what I'm saying? And yet his spirit is alive because his faith still speaks even though that happened back in Genesis, and it still speaks today. So that is awesome. And then continuing in that chapter, by faith and not. You guys heard that verse right here? By faith Enoch, I hope I'm saying that right, was taken from this life so that he did not experience death. He could not be found because God had taken him away. For before he was taken, he was commended as one who pleased God. Pleased God, not plead. What? And you know what? This is back in Genesis 5. It's like kind of going in order. And I remember I read this chapter and it was so significant to me, Enoch, because it was like a family tree. Like, you know, when it would start saying like, this is the son of this, and this is the daughter and the son of this, and this just keeps going. It was really weird because I was reading that chapter, I remember, and it was really significant. And it's crazy that they brought it up in Hebrews, but it started saying like the family tree, and then everyone would just die. It was like, oh, and then this person died, and then this person died, and then at this age this person died. But then when it got to Enoch, it said that the Lord took him, like basically like the Lord took him home. Like, and at the time I thought it was kind of like, okay, his flesh died and his spirit lived, because it said that he walked faithfully to the Lord. That's what it said. Enoch walked faithfully with the Lord. So he didn't die like everyone else. He literally was taken by God. Like here in Hebrews, it says that they did not find his body or nothing. Like it literally said he could not be found because God had taken him away. Like literally he was taken by the Lord. Like, you're coming home. It's kind of similar to what happened with Elijah. And that's basically, so all of that because he walked faithfully with the Lord. Like, you know what I'm saying? His whole lineage, I mean, all these people died, but he, on the other hand, and that's awesome, God literally took Enoch home, like body and everything, like literally took him home. And he needed faith. And I mean, in his generation, as you guys saw, everyone was just dying, but he was the only one that said that he walked faithfully with the Lord. So imagine how hard it was to walk faithfully with God, with someone that, and this was like before Abraham, before like Moses, before Jacob, Joseph, before all these people. It was this guy who just walked faithfully before Noah. This is before Noah. So that's crazy. And all because of his faith. And he did it, and look at the result. Not death. The death was not the result. He was literally taken home to the Lord. So that's awesome. Continuing this chapter, then it speaks about Noah. By faith, Noah, when warned about things not yet seen, in holy fear built an ark to save his family. By his faith, he condemned the world and became heir of the righteousness that is in keeping with faith. So, we all know the story of Noah. Noah literally built an ark. All right. God gives Noah a command, and it took Noah years to build this ark. It wasn't something simple. Building it wasn't simple. It took years. People, I'm sure, did not believe him, thought they were insane. And this whole thing was by faith. Faith. Simply in, he gave me this command, and I'm going to have faith that he's going to fulfill something through this. So I'm going to do it. And by faith, even though while he was doing it, there was probably no change. He probably felt so frustrated in doing this. I mean, the emotions were going crazy. The lies were probably going crazy. The devil was going crazy with the spiritual warfare. It was probably insane. But yet he had faith in the Lord, and that faith overpowered it all. And he knew it was going to happen because God had told him. He had to have faith that was going to actually happen. You know what I'm saying? Like, hey, I want you to build this ark because I'm going to do this. But like, you still need to have faith. Like, that's going to happen. You know, like, just because you told me what's going to happen does not mean that it's going to be easy to have faith. Like, it was probably still so hard to be doing that and see no change, and just have to have faith in, like, God is going to fulfill his promise, his word that he just spoke. You know what I'm saying? So faith, look what it did. Save these people, restart, boom, promise. Anyway, after this, it starts speaking about Abraham and Sarah. By faith, Abraham, when called to go to a place he would later receive as his inheritance, obeyed and went, even though he did not know where he was going. By faith, he made his home in the promised land like a stranger in a foreign country. He lived in tents, as did Isaac and Jacob, who were heirs with him of the same promise. For he was looking forward to the city with foundations, whose architect and builder is God. And by faith, even Sarah, who was past childbearing age, was unable to bear children because she considered him faithful who had made the promise. And so from this one man, and he as good as dead, came descendants as numerous as the stars in the sky and as countless as the sand on the seashore. So, Abraham, everyone knows Abraham. We love Abraham. Abraham was literally told by God, leave home. Literally was told to leave home. Abraham's probably like, and do what? Have faith. So this definitely was not easy. You imagine literally leaving everything behind, just being like, okay, and Jesus, like, what are you gonna do after that? Like, okay, Lord, like, what? And what? So pure faith. God doesn't need your understanding, just need you to have faith. All right. And that's all he needed to have, faith. And so this is a real free fall. Like, all these people I'm giving y'all are examples of free falls. This is a real one right here. Leave your home, go pack your things, go here, let's go. He had no map. He had no little here, Abraham, here's a map. Like, no, it's just faith. Trust in me. He just needed to step out of faith first. And then we see Sarah. She had faith in the Lord that she was going to be able to bear a child. She could not bear a child. And she had faith in her old age. She had faith, and that was fulfilled as well. Like, all of these things, you guys, is all faith in action. In the middle of these processes where they felt like they were free falling. I mean, God is telling you to do this, and you're like, what? Build an ark? Leave my home? And what? It's insane. But these people stepped out in faith. They were transformed by that. And I want to make a quick pause, because if you keep reading verse 13, it says this awesome thing. It says that it starts speaking of these people, and it says all these people were still living by faith when they died. They did not receive the things promised. They only saw them and welcomed them from a distance, admitting that they were foreigners and strangers on earth. People who say such things show that they are looking for a country of their own. If they had been thinking of the country they had left, they would have had the opportunity to return. Instead, they were longing for a better country, a heavenly one. Therefore, God is not ashamed to be called their God, for he has prepared a city for them. So that's beautiful. That is awesome. This chapter is so good. And all of these people that we read about, they did not see the full promise. Basically, God's promise was always that their Abraham's descendants were going to multiply, and then like the promised land, this whole thing. And the people like from Abraham, it took all the way, I think, to Joshua for this to finally promised land and everything. And from Abraham and all the people I read before, none of them saw that promise actually be fully fulfilled yet, but they still died living in faith. You know what I'm saying? And they didn't see that, but they walked by faith and they died living in faith, and they saw the beginning of the promise, but they didn't see the end, but yet they had faith. You know what I'm saying? And even after that, God fulfilled his purpose. And this part of the chapter says that they admitted that they were foreigners on earth. So therefore, they weren't comfortable on earth. They didn't sit here and were like, home is earth. The earth, this is my home right here. This is where I'm comfortable at. No, they knew that their home was with their Father in eternity in heaven. And I think that we all need to have that mentality. This is not our home. It is Jesus. But one thing I can say is that even though they knew that their actual home was in heaven with their Father, who is the Lord, they lived in heaven on earth. We do not need to live in this thing of my gosh, when is Jesus going to come back? When did Jesus come back? When it's like, yes, but you can bring heaven here. You can walk with Jesus here. Why wait? You know what I'm saying? Why do we have to wait for when Jesus come back to then be like, okay, now we're going to go? We can bring heaven here. You know what I'm saying? We can walk in faith of Jesus. We can, yes, it's harder, but in the end, we'll go to our eternal, but we can bring heaven here. So I love that it says that. that even though they were here, like, living on earth, like, they didn't be comforted and like, hey, this is my eternal home. No, they knew that their home was in heaven with the Father. They knew that, and they brought heaven on earth. Their faith literally lives forever. I mean, look at us reading it now. And faith is not just about how much you see. It's not about how much you see at all. Faith is about trusting in the one and only God and not having our eyes on the temporary things, but on eternity. Where's your eternity at? You know what I'm saying? Like, even though it's hard to have faith, you guys, I mean, temporarily in these processes, in the free fall process and everything, free fall season, faith. And that little thing leads you to your eternity because you have faith in the Father. You're walking in faith of the Father. And in the end, you know what? God had a different purpose for every single one, fulfilled that purpose, and that promise did get fulfilled. It did. They died living in faith. Anywho, it goes back to speaking about Abraham. And it says, by faith, Abraham, when God tested him, offered Isaac as a sacrifice. Mind you, tested his faith. He who had embraced the promises was about to sacrifice his one and only son, even though God had said to him, it is through Isaac that your offspring will be reckoned. Abraham reasoned that God could even raise the dead. And so in a manner of speaking, he did receive Isaac back from death. The famous thing of Abraham sacrificing Isaac. Abraham is literally told by God to sacrifice the promise. Isaac is the promise of Abraham and Sarah and all of these things, and he is told to sacrifice it. And there's a lot of different reasons why God probably wanted him to do this or to give him this test, but mostly about, like, where's your faith at? Do you have faith? It's like, because like I told you guys, when everything is bad, when everything was bad for Sarah and Abraham, we can't have a child. Oh no. Now the child comes back. Sometimes we get this high ego. Well, don't need faith anymore. Bye. And you idolize that. And God is there like, dude, I sent you that for your faith. And now you don't have faith in me because everything's okay again. You know what I'm saying? So I think that God wanted to make sure that that did not happen with Abraham. And he wanted to test his faith. And boom, Abraham. Imagine how much faith Abraham had to have. And again, another free fall moment. I don't know what's going to happen. I'm about to sacrifice my kid. I'm about to slice him right now. I mean, I wonder what was going through that man's head. But he acted in faith. And it was probably a little insane. I mean, dang, sacrifice my son. But it was all worth it. God fulfilled his promise and the kid did not die. So, faith. Anywho, next. And by faith, Isaac blessed Jacob and Esau in regard to their future. So it talks about Isaac. Here, Isaac basically was when he was like, I think he was like about to die. He was all blind and stuff. And he intended on blessing Esau because he was the oldest. And at the time, you give the greatest blessing to the oldest child, to the firstborn. And that was his preference. But his preference, even though it was that, he still acted in faith of passing this covenant of God forward to his children. Ended up fulfilling it just to another kid, just to Jacob. And yet God fulfilled his promise through that. In the middle of the unexpected outcomes, in the middle of this situation, there was still faith in the middle of that. There was still Isaac wanting to fulfill that, to be like, I'm going to pass this covenant, this promise that God has made, and I have faith that he will fulfill it, even though I have seen the beginning of it and not the end. So awesome. Then we have Jacob. It says that by faith Jacob, when he was dying, blessed each of Joseph's sons and worshipped as he leaned on the top of his staff. So here Jacob, also about to die, I think, Jacob broke the tradition. The tradition was give the greatest blessing to the firstborn, but he broke that tradition, and that is what everyone else would usually do, and actually gave the greater blessing to the youngest of Joseph's sons, who was Ephraim, I don't know how to say his name, but he gave it to him. And again, he did this in faith of God's covenant, knowing that God was going to fulfill that promise, and he passed it down to him, or he gave the greatest blessing to him. And so again, it's kind of similar to what Isaac did, but he chose to break that tradition to in faith, step in faith. Next we have Joseph. By faith Joseph, when his end was near, spoke about the exodus of the Israelites from Egypt and gave instructions concerning the burial of his bones. So again, I think Joseph had turned to God in the middle of his problem. Joseph that man went through so much. He went through betrayal. He was sold into slavery. He went to jail and stuff. And so Joseph trusted God in the middle of those problems, in the middle of the betrayal, where he could have just been like, oh God, why did da-da-da-da-da, and he could have just left. In the middle of the uncertainty, he had faith in God. You know what I'm saying? And he forgave his brothers for everything that they did. He ended up forgiving his brothers. Y'all imagine how hard that was. I think he even wept when he heard like a letter of his brother, like how hard it is to forgive the brothers who sold you into slavery. But he's doing it out of faith. This is what the Lord would want me to do. He trusted that God would fulfill his promise even after his death. That's why he did like the burial of his bone thing. And so Joseph trusted God in the middle of all his free fall seasons. He trusted God to catch him, and God did catch him. So awesome. I say like some awesome after every single person. Anywho, by faith, it starts talking about Moses' parents. By faith, Moses' parents hid him for 3 months after he was born because they saw he was no ordinary child, and they were not afraid of the king's edict. Y'all know what I mean. As we know, this is when Moses' parents, they had lived in a time where Pharaoh had ordered to kill all the Hebrew male babies, and his mom, oh my goodness, you guys know the amount of faith his mom had to have faith that Moses was different, to have faith that Moses was going to return safely, that God was going to protect him through the Nile River. She literally put him in a basket and put him in the Nile River because she knew she couldn't keep him forever, and she knew God had something with Moses. So imagine how much faith that woman had to have, first of all, in God's purpose with Moses and in God's protection with Moses going through that. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're literally like a baby, you know? And through faith, it even starts talking about Moses. And mind you, she did that not knowing what would happen after. Like, she didn't know what was going to happen to Moses. Anywho. By faith, Moses, when he had grown up, he refused to be known as the son of Pharaoh's daughter. He chose to be mistreated along with the people of God rather than to enjoy the fleeting pleasures of sin. He regarded disgrace for the sake of Christ as of a greater value than the treasures of Egypt, because he was looking ahead to his reward. By faith, he left Egypt, not fearing the king's anger. He persevered because he saw him who was invisible. By faith, he kept the Passover and the application of blood, so that the destroyer of the firstborn would not touch the firstborn of Israel. By faith, the people passed through the Red Sea as on dry land, but when the Egyptians tried to do so, they were drowned. By faith, the walls of Jericho fell after the army had marched around them for 7 days. So here we're talking about Moses and Israel. We know that Moses did not get used to his own comfort. His own comfort was probably, I want to stay here. But when God saw him in that burning bush, when God met him at that burning bush, baby, everything changed. I mean, his whole life changed. He was about to go back to go with God's people that were being held captive, and he was gonna go. I mean, I have everything I need here. You know what I'm saying? But he acted in faith, not understanding, but in faith, and he chose to be with the people of God, and he fulfilled the purpose that God gave him, and the instruction that God gave him, and he followed. He went into obedience without understanding, like I said. And Moses ended up leading the Israelites in faith, and he trusted God. And there were so many situations that seemed impossible to them, so many. One of the examples said here, which is the Red Sea. I mean, they have the sea in front of them. What the heck are we gonna do? Free fall moment. Like, what are we gonna do? Run across? Like, literally, it was split. So faith. All they had to do was step in faith, in obedience without understanding. And look at the fruits from it, bro. Like, look. And so other moments, like when they were in the wilderness and they had no food, and God sent manna, sent food, or the walls of Jericho, marching around for 6 days, thinking, hey, I'm here on the 5th day and this wall is not breaking. I mean, this faith, he doesn't need your understanding. Keep going. And what happened? Them walls break through, boom, boom, bam, bam, boom. Beautiful. And all of this because Moses chose to leave his comfort, to leave and obey the Lord, obey the voice of the Lord, obey what the Lord asks, and walk in faith, step in faith. It all takes just a step of faith, and boom. And it took a process, took a process. I mean, the process that it took, I mean, not even Moses got to see the promised land. It was a huge process. I mean, just read Exodus and read all that, actually. Huge, long process from Genesis to Joshua to even after that. Huge. All it took was one step of faith. All it took from all these people that were telling y'all. And then after this, it starts talking about Rahab. And by faith, the prostitute Rahab, because she welcomed the spies, was not killed with those who were disobedient. And so that was some small faith. I mean, I don't think it was small faith, but like looking at it, you would think something so small. I mean, she literally came out like in like part of like Joshua, I think it was. And even that little bit of faith mattered so much to God, so much. And even as a foreigner, Rahab trusted that God was going to fulfill the promise. Rahab wasn't even like part of Israel. She was like a prostitute, and they just pulled up in her house, the spies. Rahab knew that God was going to fulfill that promise for Israel, even though she wasn't even part of Israel, even though did she know God? Maybe, I don't know. But she still had that faith. And like, I know that God is going to do something with you guys. I know that you guys are going to end up destroying Jericho because this is your land. So I'm going to help you. I'm going to help the spies. And so she had that faith without even knowing these people, I don't know if she knew God or not, but she had that faith. Even if she did know God, she needed to have that faith. And so she trusted that God was going to fulfill that promise and give Israel their promised land, and that they were going to conquer Jericho. So in faith, she literally risked her life, and she did that to help the people and to help Israel and to hide the spies. And again, she had to act in faith. And what happened in the end? That's when the walls of Jericho broke and everything. That was awesome. And it's like these small little things of faith, like these small steps, like you would think it's not that big of a deal, but it really truly is. And if you keep reading towards the end, it says, and what more shall I say? I do not have time to tell you about Gideon, Barak, Samson, Jephthah, about David and Samuel and the prophets, who through faith conquered kingdoms, administered justice, and gained what was promised, who shut the mouths of lions, quenched the fury of the flames, and escaped the edge of the sword, whose weakness was turned to strength, and who became powerful in battle and routed foreign armies. And I'm telling you guys, I have read all this. If you keep reading in that chapter, it keeps saying like everything that had happened to them and everything, like these little, like, you know, and the things that they had faced, and even through that they had faith. You know what I'm saying? And if you even read, telling you guys, read Exodus to like, I'm right now in 1 Kings, and it's still going crazy. So if you just go into the Old Testament and you see all the things that those people went through, and the amount of, think about this. I think that today for us, it's kind of easier to have, I don't want to say it's easier to have faith, but it's like we have this example of Jesus. These people at this time didn't even have the example of Jesus. They had like the book of Moses and stuff, but like they didn't have like, hey, Jesus is this, or Jesus. Like it was kind of just like, hey, God did this with Israel, so like we're gonna like, like they didn't have Jesus as an example. They didn't have the perfect man. It was just kind of like, we need to really walk in faith. We need to really, so even today we need to walk like that. But at least we have that example of Jesus. Like, that is awesome. Jesus actually did that for us. Anywho, last and final thing is the last like 2 verses of this chapter that says, the word is crazy. These were all commended for their faith. They were all recognized for their faith, admired by their faith. And yet none of them received what had been promised. Like I said, they saw the beginning, not the end. Since God had planned something better for us, so that only together with us would they be made perfect. So all of these examples and many more examples are all people in different situations and all people in different places. They have different lives. They have different fears. They have different emotions. Well, they have the same emotions. But like, all different people. None of these were like some perfect beings. They're all like us. And yet God chose them. And by following the same God and having the same faith in God, that's something that they had all in common. They had the same faith. Like, they had faith in the same God. They all followed the same God, followed that voice. Without understanding. They just did it. And all of them told God before because they're human and they're like us, and yet God saw their faith. That never stopped Jesus from fulfilling his purpose, or after all this, or that never stopped God from sending that son, or from being there in the middle of their process. And by the way, sometimes we get through these processes and we're in the free fall season and we think that God is only there after or before, but not during it. And he's there. He is there. I promise. He will catch you. God saw their hearts and he admired them for that. He admired them. He loved them. Just them. And none of these people saw these promises that God promised. They never saw it happen immediately. That took years, it took decades. And these people died without seeing it, but literally it says with all these, yet they lived in faith. And they saw God's move in their own personal lives. Even though they didn't see that specific thing immediately, they saw God move in their lives. You know what I'm saying? In their personal ways. Like Rahab was actually preserved with her family and saved with her family from, being attacked and everything. And then Moses fulfilled his purpose with Israel, Abraham and Sarah. They all saw God move in their lives. They were never just left. Hey, good, thank you for your faith. All right, bye. No. None of these people saw these promises that God promised happen immediately. It took years, took decades, and these people died without seeing it. Each and every single one of these people had faith in God while they were free falling. All of them were free falling. All of them were I don't understand God, but I'm going to follow your voice. Maybe things that God commanded them to do did not make sense. Stepping out in faith was really scary, probably. That's all they had to do, to step out in faith, just like Peter stepped out in faith on that water, girl. That's all you have to do. And it's the pattern that they all are I'm going to obey the Lord. The Lord's hey, I want you to do this. Or maybe they feel God is calling them to do something. And they just have to step out in faith, And maybe they were going through something and all they could do was have faith. It was out of their control to do something. So all they could do was have faith without seeing the outcome and without understanding. That's what faith is about. And yet God delivered, and God did more than what they could even imagine. And they were transformed by that. I mean, you're not only transformed after these things are fulfilled, but you're transformed during that free fall season. You're transformed. And these stories, you would think that a faith as big as Abraham versus a faith like Rahab or the parents of Moses, they're actually all significant. And us reading this generations and generations later, helping us live with faith as well, that is their faith continues to live. Because we have faith in the same God who's been the same, And so that's awesome. And I literally wrote down, wow, Jesus is so intentional. Truly, God is so intentional. Because God even created Jesus. He was so intentional with that. And then Jesus is intentional. It's just so awesome. So intentional in everything. A lot of times people think that God does something. It's God, why'd you do this? That was for no reason. And then you're why did I say that? That was definitely for a reason. I mean, look. Oh. Then you're oh. So trust me, everything God does is for a reason. Not everything is for a reason. Not everything happens for a reason. Lie. Everything God does is for a reason. Okay? God. So he's super intentional. And even the smallest of faith, all of it mattered. Because not only did it help them individually, spiritually, with their faith and everything, it fulfilled the eternal purpose of God for us to go home to him, to his kingdom, and to have salvation. And for us in these generations, centuries later, to be reading about it and having faith in that same God who has never changed, and sitting here and speaking about it, this has always been the purpose, And in the end, I mean, these people, they didn't see this. I mean, they were probably acting in faith and they weren't thinking, generations later, I'm going to be written in the book and I'm going to be famous for my faith. No, they weren't thinking. They did not see that. But they had faith that would happen. They had faith that these generations, you know what I'm saying? And in the end, even though they didn't see those promises, the promises were fulfilled because of that faith. And the faith was never wasted. In the moment, they probably felt this faith is so useless. I don't even know what I'm doing anymore. I'm trusting, but I see no change. But the faith was never wasted. And it was never for no reason. And even though it, like I said, temporarily felt like it was not for no reason. Jesus sees that, I promise you. And nowadays, today, we get to experience the full promise of Christ through something that we thought, or that we look at and we think is so small, but it is so big and so deep. When I was reading the family tree, I didn't think it's that big of a deal. I was like, wow, Enoch was the only one, but like that small little baby, that thing can move a mountain, can lead generations, and that's beautiful. And so that is my message for you guys today, what I felt to talk to you guys today. I felt like talking about it because I honestly need to give myself a word on faith and everything. So I hope this touches some of you, any of you, all of you, one of you, any. But thank you guys for watching. I love you guys. And if I love you, imagine how much more Jesus loves you. Have faith. In the middle of that free fall season, have faith. God will catch you. Excuse the quality like I told you guys, but there it is. And yeah, thank you for watching. Bye.